At this very start, I welcome you all and request Dr. Veer Singh to coordinate.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Namaskar. Good morning, everybody. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, worthy university officers, deans of the faculty, head of the departments, our trainees, newly recruited teachers, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed delighted to welcome Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, and all of you for this inaugural motivational structural blessings of our head of the family for the orientation program for newly recruited teachers. Before handing microphone to the chair, I want to say a few words. We know we are efficiently doing or using maximum time of lockdown period by delivering online lectures, uploading study materials on university website for undergraduate and postgraduate students, right from very beginning, sir. In addition to the students, now we have formulated a 3 days virtual orientation program for newly recruited teachers. It is a simple orientation, just appraisal to know internal official working, understanding of our organization, BASU, management of college and university system. It is an interactive lecture. We can deliver a talk for 40 or 45 minutes and rest of the time can use me for this discussions. Best wishes. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Veer Singh. And to begin with, I welcome all the senior officers, faculty, and especially the new faculty who have been invited for this formal orientation program. I'm thankful to Dr. Veer Singh and all other colleagues for arranging this. We are already familiar with each other, and because already considerable time has elapsed, we did not start the orientation right at the time of your joining. We were planning for a longer orientation program by inviting experts from outside on administrative matters and all, different aspects, and some of those who are leaders in the field. But because of this special situation and this lockdown, it occurred to me that we can do this orientation program online, as this will sensitize all of you and give an opportunity to listen to each and every senior officer or head of different units about the functioning in the university. I have made a small presentation, and I would like to share this presentation with you and proceed accordingly. You can see the screen. I'll start sharing. So, is it on your screens now? You can raise your hands if you are seeing the PowerPoint. Okay, okay. So I start with that.
No.
And
yeah, it has come, sir.
It has come now. Okay. So थोड़ा लैग हो सकता है टाइम का, लेकिन आ जाएगा, सबके पे आ जाएगा. तो
ये परफेक्ट है सर, परफेक्ट.
ठीक है. We all understand the importance of this profession, and we are really proud to be teachers. We are proud to be scientists, and we are proud to be associated with education. Education is one sector which is very, very important for the country, for any civilization, for any culture to flourish. And the universities are the seeds which generate knowledge and which proliferate this knowledge to the stakeholders. So all the youngsters who have become part of this faculty, they are they have chosen this noble career, noble profession. I welcome them and would like to impress upon them that they should feel proud of this profession and they should see the importance and the responsibility at the same time. How much is the responsibility? We command a lot of respect in the society, right from the maybe primary school teacher or maybe a university teacher, but there are well known, this is well known that teacher is one of the most respected professions. So we are all lucky that we chose this. We could have gone into some different kind of professions. Police role is very important, but many a time policeman is not seen with the same regard or same respect. Similarly, an advocate may command respect, may not command respect. That depends. Every profession contributes to the society, but there are some unpleasant professions. Once we invited the senior superintendent in the town for our sports day, annual sports day. When the senior SP, he came to the college, I still remember, I was a student at that time, undergraduate student. So he told in his opening remarks that I am thankful to the principal of this college for having given me this opportunity to meet young people, to meet bright people, to meet leaders in the society. Otherwise, I am always surrounded by criminals. I spend most of my time with those who deal, who are either lawbreakers, who commit crimes, or those who handle the criminals. So this way, I feel that we are very lucky. Secondly, the dimensions of a university are very different. We are into the agriculture university system, which we all call as the land grant system, which started from Pantnagar. And the very foundation of Pantnagar was on international lines. There was a lot of collaboration with different, especially the United States, and teachers from Pantnagar were trained in US. And going to US means that you are having an opportunity to see the people from across the globe. US universities have the advantage that they are having teachers from all over the world. When X or Y, G from India goes to US, he does not only get to know the US people, he interacts with Chinese people, he interacts with the European people, he interacts with the people from many other countries. I visited Utah State University in '98, and I remember one of the professors in dairy technology, he was from Australia, Mick Mann, and he's a very well-known cheese expert. So that way, science has no boundaries. We can collaborate with different institutions. We read the papers of scientists from other countries. We can write review articles together. We have international publications. Most of the journals are subscribed throughout the world. And most of the textbooks are also followed throughout the world. So this is global knowledge. In another way, I want to say that we are part of the global or universal knowledge, and our outlook should not be a narrow outlook as seen in many other professions. So we have this sense of belonging to the international community. We see that in my field, how many people are working in UK, how many people are working in such and such university, are they working on the similar lines, or they are having a different approach? And when such and such seminar will be held, who will be the speakers? Are they being invited, or who will be chairing the sessions? So like that, we can be really in touch with the people across the globe who are working in our areas. This type of opportunity I don't find in many fields, where you can connect with the people across the globe who are in your field or who are related to your work. So you know the status of your work, global status of your work, and in which direction this is moving further. Moving forward, further from this, another very important job with us is to the opportunity to train young minds. We are very lucky that we are given this responsibility, and this is a huge responsibility to train the young persons. After school, they come to college, they spend with us 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, and they imbibe values and ethics apart from the skills and scientific knowledge. So this opportunity to mold young people is very rare, and I consider myself as very fortunate. In my own time at NDRI and IVRI, I had the opportunity to interact with students. Apart from class lectures, I find that we used to discuss many other things which impacted or which helped the young students in developing their own persona and developing their value system. So in this profession, sky is the limit. One can write a small research paper, a small proposal, or one can bring about some global change scenario. You can reach to the peak and earn Nobel Prize. You can earn recognition worldwide. Maybe you can develop a vaccine which may, be useful in preventing such pandemics. A universal vaccine against virus is very much sought after. So this will happen from some of the researchers, some young minds who are scientists, who are teachers, and that is way I call it as the sky is the limit. So this orientation program, which is organized for you, especially it aims to make you aware about the ethics and philosophy. So we all know why these agricultural universities are there, what is their philosophy of work, and what is their expectation from these universities and the faculty of these universities. Then you will also become familiar with the framework of rules and regulations and the working system, and also the career development opportunities. How you can develop your own persona and help the society in a better manner. I always see the development of individual teacher. If a teacher keeps on continuous improvement, continuously developing his or her own personality, that is a value addition to the public good. So that is also our duty, not only that personal interest, but our duty, and we must fulfill that. So I come to the duties of these faculty. The young faculty normally will tell that we are here for teaching, research, and extension. I have written here education, but read it as teaching, research, and extension. So there is a mistake in this slide, and we all know this. But apart from this, we are supposed to do mentoring and counseling of students, which is a little beyond your classroom teaching, sharing of administrative responsibilities, involvement in improving the reputation, visibility, work culture, and experience of life on the campus. And also, it is our duty to take new initiatives, to ponder on issues related to the campus, and how we can ensure larger benefits to all stakeholders. So I will come to all these duties one by one, and we'll elaborate on this. First and foremost is the teaching. I already told that teaching is a noble profession. You all have been students and you have interacted with teachers. You have seen good teachers. You have been impressed by some of the teachers who deliver very good lectures or who are real taskmasters and who explain the concepts properly. And we have also seen teachers who give just class notes, written class notes, and nothing beyond that. And they will give you good marks also. So that the students just pass the course easily, don't complain about that. So that also we have seen. But who are our role models? Is it the ones who are best, or don't we criticize those now? After reaching this stage, we reflect on those teachers who did not do their job efficiently, seriously, and failed to create the interest of the students. I remember that we lagged in one subject. I performed very poorly in one subject in one of my school days, because the teacher never taught us anything on that subject and covered only 1/3 of the syllabus. So being in a school where you don't have much counseling, you are looking at the teacher and you are teacher driven. So that was the kind of thing which I reflect upon, that I could not take full interest in a particular subject because the teacher could not create that interest. So it is the duty of the teacher. So we all use the chalk and talk method. That is one traditional method where we can write and we can explain, we can get into it. But now technology has come in a big way. And we must incorporate technology, make use of the technological tools. We all know about textbooks. A good teacher knows what are the good textbooks, on which chapter has been covered properly in a particular textbook. Why we refer 2 or 3 textbooks? Because no single textbook will cover all the chapters in a beautiful manner. Some chapters may be excellent in one book, other chapters may be given in a better manner in the second textbook or third textbook. So we can tell the students, these are the chapters which are beautifully covered in this textbook, whereas for this portion you would refer to another book. Then there are some classics like Gray's Anatomy or some nutrition books, physiology books. They are considered as classics. Lenin's biochemistry also I consider as one of the classics. So we refer to the classics also, that these are must, you must refer. And but for textbook purpose, there are different books. Then reference books, particularly maybe some encyclopedias. Nowadays, very good encyclopedias are available on online. So we can see the article in a particular encyclopedia and recommend that. Then in my college days, I always lamented on one thing, that we were never given good references or good books for methods and protocols. We used to go to the library, see methods in microbiology or methods in enzymology or advances in so and so. But I find that there are many resources which explain the methods in a very systematic manner. And for researchers, these compendia are very, very important, and these resources are very important. Again, popular journals and research journals we should know, and we should recommend some good journals to the students. I used to see Journal of Bacteriology, Journal of infectious diseases, like that. But sometimes there was so much gap in our standard and in the standard of the papers which were published in that journal. We had not started genomics, but I used to find papers on DNA, microarray, and many things were not taught to us. So we could not relate. But other journals like Journal of Dairy Science or International Journal of Dairy Research, that we used to refer and find the kind of work we are doing. So we should be able to relate, or we may be explained some of the areas or some of the articles. So referring to different, exposing the students to different journals also exposes them to new topics, which we are not talking, but the international community is talking. So they must see the topics, and also a teacher can make use of PPTs or videos or animations, virtual labs, recorded lectures, live streaming of lectures. You can organize so many things at your level. There are examples. People are writing blogs. Dr. Purohit has contributed his work on obstetrics and gynecology. So he had already prepared this. So that is the kind of sharing of PPTs. We are having many platforms also where these PPTs are shared in open, and many journals are coming which are in open access. Many books are there in open access. We have compiled a sort of list on our website also. You may be motivated if you go seriously through some of those links on open resources, learning resources. And one more important thing I consider is recommended authentic web resources. Like if we see the National Institute of Health, or we see from Harvard University, or we find WHO, we find ICAR. So which resources we should refer to, where the information will be very, very authentic and that can be made use of by the teachers. So regarding method of teaching, I don't say that you strictly go by PPT or strictly use this method. A teacher feels that he or she is more comfortable with particular method. How you can best reach the students, but I will prefer a mixture. I will use PPT also, I will use Blackboard also. So in your classroom, you should have a whiteboard, you should have a blackboard or green board and a projector. If it is not there in your classroom, you should ask your dean or head of the department to improve it. Improve the ambience of your classroom. Many times new teacher comes, he goes to the classroom and he says that this is the classroom I am to teach. No, this is your classroom and you can give suggestions to improve the ambience of the classroom. How the classroom can be more comfortable, in which direction light is coming, whether tube lights are working or not, fans are working or not, air conditioners are working or not, projector is good or bad, how chalks are kept, dusters are kept, how marking pens are made available. So you should see all these things, not only that you just go for 40 minutes, give your lecture and finish it in whatever way and come back. So you make an assessment, the way you want to deliver the lecture, and to get the feedback from the students, to connect with the students in the best manner. And I am sure that once you start feeling this, that response of students, how students are responding, whether they are really appreciating it, you can ask the students to explain. One of my master degree teachers at NDRI used to give 10 minutes for teaching by students every day in every class. He used to have a 2-hour lecture. And previous day's topic, he will ask and give opportunity to 3 or 4 students, different students every day, to explain a topic. So that was one good example, and I still remember Dr. N.C. Ganguly, I remember Dr. Anand, I remember many other teachers. And for practicals, Dr. S.S. Sanna Bhatti was there, who will, if you attend his practical class, you will always come to know about so many things which you are ignoring otherwise in the practical classes. And you can suggest also to students to visit some establishments, some farms, some good laboratories, some good institutions. Many times the students travel to different places. They may not go to the or they may not go to the institutions. They may only go to historical places. So in their personal visits also, they can see some of those facilities. And nowadays, such information is very handy. Regarding research, our identity as a professor can be documented through good research. We may be very good in subject, we may be very good teachers, we may be imparting the knowledge to the students, but our standing in our community will only grow with our publications and with our research projects. So that is one parameter which is very, very important in our career. Most of the time, the weightage given to research is quite high as compared to other areas, because we are a research university. We are not only given the responsibility of teaching in the classroom. We are imparting master's education where 50% of the credit goes to research, or 50% of the time is supposed to be given to the research. So as a researcher, we must know the mandate. What is our mandate? Sometimes we fancy some research, but that does not fit into our mandate. So we cannot allow research in fancy areas, depending on the whims and fancies of the researcher. It has to, fulfill the mandated objectives of the university, but still you can tailor it to some extent to your fancies, to your interest. You may be good in statistics, you may be good in survey work, you may be good in field work, you may be good in genomics type of work, you may be good in collating data, collecting it from different journals, and then making your own conclusions and compilations. So without laboratory also you can do research. And most important thing is, apart from the priorities, the research teams. We must know how to build research teams across different disciplines, within the discipline, and what facilities are available in the university, or what other facilities are available in the town with other organizations, or out of state, in other states also. So we must know about the facilities. We see the papers, read the papers, and they have done some data, and we can find out if the analysis has been done in that particular laboratory, or it has been done in some other laboratory. There are some resource centers for fine equipments. They are sponsored by DBT or DST or by UGC or by ICAR. So we must all become familiar with those facilities, which are shared facilities, common facilities. We may have to make some payment, but we can make use of those facilities, or we can make some collaboration, and then we can enter into such parameters we can take for our research. So another prime duty of a researcher is to learn about what other researchers are doing. So we come to know this through conferences, we come to know through annual reports, If we are reading the annual report of IVRI, especially in our own discipline, if I'm from veterinary mycology, I will like to read the annual report of IVRI or other leading institutions, or Tanuvas or Gadvasu or Luas, what is being done in those universities and where do they stand. If there is some good publication or good project, can I learn something from there or can I collaborate? So that way it is very important to know what is going on in other universities and around us, what my counterparts, my colleagues in different universities are doing, different institutions are doing. So this type of collaboration or identification, knowing people is very important. That gives you personal touch also. If you know about somebody's work and you meet him and you mention, I have seen your work, I have seen your papers, they feel more connected with you, and it is good to develop such linkages. Then we must also know about funding agencies. We know about the government funding agencies. We have DBT, we have DST, we have ICAR, we have UGC, and ICMR, and so on. And sometimes the state government and central government. RKVY or Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. We should know about this. We can also ask many NGOs for funding. There are foundations from corporate houses. All those who are, having a certain turnover, a percentage of that money they have to spend on corporate social responsibility. And the universities qualify under this. And you can always approach them, such foundations or such NGOs also, for funding of your projects. For good projects, I have the experience that there is no dearth of funding agencies. You may not be funded by one agency, but certainly if you try, you will be funded by one or the other agency. You have to only pursue that and prove or impress on people the importance of your project and sincerity and standing of your laboratory. So a good reputation of your laboratory will go a long way into this. And on ground, there is one nitty-gritty that how a good laboratory works, how to organize your lab, how to procure chemicals, how to procure equipment, how to get feedback on working of equipment. Somebody is having a equipment of Biorad, you can ask that scientist about his experience working on those equipment, whether it is sturdy, robust, or it is prone to some problems, or there are some critical steps in handling that equipment. Similarly, we must be familiar with good laboratory practices. Few more to have. Where are the dangerous chemicals, inflammable chemicals, how they are to be stored, and how they are to be handled so that accidents in the laboratory do not happen. We have spent so much time in different laboratories, but we are never systematically taught about the good laboratory practices. Sometimes some teachers comes in, once one class or the other class, he may tell you some of these things, or we may go to some good lab and we feel surprised. Oh, this lab is so much under control or so much well organized that we are really impressed by that and try to see that we also do things in this manner. One more thing, along with the research, your research will not be complete if you don't publish it. So publications, patenting is very important, and you should have a target to write papers. You have a lot of data, but you are not writing. Many times it happens. So in our T club, we used to push our collaborators. इस सप्ताह ये पेपर निकल जाना चाहिए. You give me the draft. You write this portion. I will write this portion. So like this, we used to do it, and things started happening. And don't hesitate to submit papers to good journals. By sending your papers to good journals, you get very good comments, which give you insights into your working. If there are deficiencies, the peer reviews will give you insights into those deficiencies, and that will broaden your mind, and you will learn about better planning of your experiments or supplementation of your experiments. Sometimes you can do some more work after you get the comments, and then you can publish those papers. So research is something which you can enjoy. If you are really into research, you will not be able to go back to your home without doing some good discussion, or without planning some good experiments. And keep your lab abreast, procure the good equipments, plan what more you can you need, and see your budget also. So many times there is some good funding for equipment also from different agencies. There also we can tap those agencies. The next activity is outreach or extension. Here we normally think that we are to transfer our technologies to the farmers. Apart from transferring of technology to farmers, which is very, very important, we also have to improve the visibility of our university, and also to convey our work to the stakeholders, policy planners, and politicians. Politicians are very important, and we must reach out to all stakeholders. So extension can be field oriented, where we can have participatory research projects. I remember when I was a student at NDRI, we had the operational research project, which was to go for a pilot study in selected villages on the impact of crossbreeding in milk production and livelihood improvement in surrounding areas of Karnal district. That was one very ambitious project of Dr. D. Sundaresan, director at that time. And this project changed the scenario in those villages, and this kind of progress added to the reputation of NDRI, that farmers were ready to meet people, policy planners, speak for the benefits, or give testimonial to the institute or university that we are in touch with such and such university, we have taken technology from here, and under such and such project we got these benefits, and this technology is working, we find it more useful. And apart from the technologies generated by us, we are also supposed to tell farmers about the good practices on farming. This may be poultry farming, this may be dairy farming, this may be any kind of farm work. Whether the farmers know the good practices, how they can improve upon the way they are working now. So these things we can do through demonstrations, through trials, through adoption of some villages. So various methods can be used for that. And for this, collaboration with line departments is very important. If we reach out to the line department and tell them, impress on them that this activity, like if we want to work on field control of mastitis, so can we give a scheme to the department and implement the scheme with the help of the department on create awareness and make farmers aware, detect cases, and involve the field veterinarians, so that the impact can be really multiplied in a number of ways. Then very well-known method of outreach is trainings and short courses. We can organize trainings for farmers, we can organize short courses for entrepreneurs. So we can see how different trainings can be conducted in a series, from preliminary introductory training to then serious training or expert kind of training, so that we can say that this has, this person or this human resource is well trained and he can handle these things, or he is supposed to possess such and such skills. In this case, we are, in touch with the Agriculture Skill Council of India. We are also in touch with the Bihar Skill Development Mission, BSDMA, and we can have our own programs. And we provided training to field veterinarians. In 1 year, we have trained more than 1,200 doctors, field veterinarians from the state in emergency management or rescue of animals. In case of floods or other exigencies. Then special campaigns can be driven. They can be need-based, or they can be on chosen areas, like we are finding the problem of infertility in animals, or we may be finding some particular issue like production of seed, fishery seed in Bihar. It is most of the seed is coming from Bengal, but can we motivate some entrepreneurs and to install hatcheries and start the business of supplying seed in Bihar. Similarly, we can do something in dairy science also, something we can do in medicine, particularly in disease control programs. We can also join hands with the central government initiative, because they will be covering the animals through vaccines and other things. But in awareness campaigns, we can do some awareness campaigns in line with those disease control programs. Similarly, we may have camps, we may have special events, exhibitions, melas, competitions, conferences, etc., etc. We do dog show, we do cat show, but can we do more? Can we organize one special health camp for equine, for horses in Nalanda? There are so many in Rajgir. These tongas are used for transport of people, and cars and other vehicles, motor vehicles are banned there. So in good number tongas are there. That occurred to me in my visit at Rajgir, that we have so many horses at one place. So can we organize a health camp for horses? And 70-80 horses were treated on that day, and many horse owners came forward and participated in the deliberations in the during that health camp. We are already with into extension publications. So these can be leaflets or monographs or small books. In many shapes, the extension publications can be brought out. We should prioritize from each department. We expect that there should be good publications, which can be in local language, also in English. Bilingual publications are preferable. Similarly, we can go for advisories. They may be related to season, climate, or a particular scenario, like we are having this very odd scenario, and in this all kind of new difficulties are being experienced, and we have also issued many advisories along with the department and the state government. Then we can use technology of voice messaging, text messaging, video sharing, and for that we must be having the database of farmers and all that. So some extension work every scientist is supposed to do. It may be through radio talks, TV talks, or it may be through extension publications and all that, but you will also enjoy this writing of popular articles. And further in extension, if you want bigger projects, if we want meaningful projects across the state which require some good funding, we can apply for funding in the project mode through NGOs, corporate houses, or through the government agencies and do orbit on that. So apart from teaching, research and extension, what are other roles? These are mainly concerned with the administration, with the participation in management, participation in institution building, and carrying out different functions and different activities from time to time. So I think management of hostels, because we are a university and we have a good number of students and we are a residential university. We are supposed to provide accommodation which is, as per norms and standards, and the ambience and environment of the hostels. We can do many activities in the hostels. So you are also required to share the additional responsibility from time to time. It may be superintendent or warden or chief warden or like that. And then management of the research cell, that is project monitoring and evaluation cell or PME cell. This can be a part of the Directorate of Research, but some of the scientists may be placed there, or some Deputy Director of Research can be placed there to keep record of all the research work being done in the institute and requirements related to research, prioritization of research, and all this can be organized by the PME cell. Then coordination and conduct of examinations. Examinations are very important along with teaching, and we manage the examination halls, do the invigilation duty, superintendent's duty, and in the background, behind the curtain, I will say, setting of question papers, inviting of, giving the names of paper setters, evaluating the answer books, preparing the result. All these things are very important. And another activity is procurement. We may have a procurement cell, but many times there are different committees in which scientists will be necessarily required, because we do technical procurement. Procurement of scientific equipment may not be done very well without the help of involvement of scientists themselves. So what is your requirement? What do you need? What are the parameters? Why we are preferring a particular brand or particular model? That helps. So Central Purchase Advisory Committee or such other committees are the committees where involvement of scientists or faculty is a must. Another activity is campus development, housing for staff. We can, play a role in this. Somebody can develop the children's park. You can develop some gardens, or you can take charge of the officer in charge for the buildings, maintenance of the buildings, because the maintenance staff will come to rectify or to renovate the kind of building or office or whatever, but somebody has to be a caretaker. So this kind of role is done in many establishments, and I have also been OC building in at different levels, and we had an experimental facility at IVRI, that is the animal nutrition sets. So we used to call officer in charge animal sets. That is also very important duty if somebody is familiar with that, managing those animals, managing the labor, supervisor, making the experimental animals available, arranging for the feed for experimental animals, and cleaning up the sheds, and all those things have to be done. So one additional duty is given. And very important is management of clinics, farms, guest house, then library committees, etc. As teachers, you will fail in your teaching if you are not connected with library properly. So always you should see the collection in the library. If new books are coming in the library, You can give requisition, you can give recommendations. You will be on the library management committees. You will be, some of you will be in charge of guest house. Somebody may be looking after the farm, and within the farm, somebody may be looking after the calf section or maternity section or milking section or feeding and nutrition kind of work, feed preparation, farms where we grow our fodder. So we need people to manage all these facilities, and this is the additional role which we scientists are playing. Apart from this management of different events, university organizes a number of events, and we give the responsibility to our faculty that you will help in convocation. Different committees are there. You will help in the Foundation Day program or dog show or cat show, or so many events are done. We had the World Veterinary Day. Because of the lockdown, we did not have a function, but if the things were open or normal, then a program was to be arranged. A program was to be arranged on the Foundation Day of the Veterinary College also in April, 2nd April. So these events are to be managed by faculty. And another area is condemnation of unserviceable equipment. We have obsolete items, unserviceable, beyond economic repair, and they occupy space, and they also can be replaced, and funds for such replacement can be utilized from the non-plan provision of the government. Many times we purchase new equipment. New equipment will come from the plan funds, which may be limited. Many times we are supposed to replace our old items with new items, and there we can make use of the non-plan funds. And keeping track of these unserviceable items, obsolete items, recommending them for discard is the responsibility of every lab in charge or every scientist who is involved in those labs. Further, to head such committees, whether you or to be on such committees. So that work is to be done, and I'm happy to see that in last couple of years we have done some good exercise in this area, and many junk items in large number, many vehicles which had outlived their useful life, they have been condemned. Then maintenance of central facilities like central instrumentation room. There may be many other central facilities. We may have a lab animal breeding center. We may have a diagnostic laboratory. We may have some specialized cell. And there are other activities related to students. There may be literary activities, there may be sports activities, NCC or NSS, or different clubs. Students can be encouraged to have different clubs. If you have ideas, you can propose new clubs where you can take lead and organize the activities of such clubs. Apart from duties, your conduct and behavior is also very important. That is how we work in a system, and we earn respect, and we ensure the smooth working in a organization. So we must respect the system, respect the timings. We call punctuality nowadays. Technology is coming for this, and we have biometric systems for marking attendance and all that. So if we are sincere, if we are punctual, we need not bother about what system of monitoring is there. We are self-disciplined. So that is very important. And we all know this old proverb, old saying that give respect to get respect. You will be respected in a system if you are respecting the system. If you respect other colleagues, if you respect the students, if you respect the staff, if you respect the employees, don't treat the class 4 or junior employees or lower rank employees indifferently. They will work 4 times more, 5 times more if you give them respect. That is very important, and that speaks a lot about you. Follow the conduct rules of university, state, and local bodies. These rules are can be made available to you by different officers, or you can get some links also to that, what you are supposed to do and what you are not supposed to do. So do's and don'ts both should be known to you. What are the other, leave rules, how to avail leave. Sometimes we ask for earned leave without giving proper notice. So earned leave cannot be granted just you apply and you get earned leave. You can take only casual leave like that, and there is no right to leave. So we must also understand all these things. Then what are other benefits and other roles in the system of regulatory system which we are supposed to comply or which we can take advantage of? Knowledge is power. So know all the rules, know the system, you will be more comfortable. It will be very easy to comply. And in common sense, we say that if I am good, most of the things will be I am doing. They fit into a good culture, good behavior, good environment. And without reading the rules between the lines, I may be very sure that on most occasions I will not be breaking any rules. So integrity, character, and behavior, these are very important. In money matters, sometimes people don't have that honesty, but in the long run, this becomes a very, very bad kind of illness sort of character and pulls you down all the time. So get out of it if you are tempted to, earn out of way. Get out of it. I will say that this is one thing which will harm you in person in your life. Behavior you all know very, very well, and deal with your colleagues, deal with the students in a dignified manner. You will get the returns. You will always get the appreciation, and also appreciate the diversity of culture. People come from different cultures. They have a different value system. They may come from different areas, different parts of the world, different parts of the country, different strata of the society, social background, different caste, creed, and they may have a different opinion. So we must appreciate all these differences, all these cultures, how somebody has been brought up, how he has grown up. If you are doing, idol worship, murti puja karta hai. As a scientist, somebody may say, laugh on him. But this is a huge, tradition and culture in our country. We all, being scientists, do this idol worship or murti puja or so many things. So, but we don't think about it that others will laugh at us. But no, and when we see that people are not laughing, they are accepting that this is a way of life in India or way of life in some particular state or particular region or particular, social strata. We must appreciate
Devinder.
So that is the kind of understanding we should have. I would like to mention some famous teachers. What is the time? I can look at the time just. Okay, so we are already almost completed. I'm through with the time, but I wanted to mention some famous teachers here. And you can visit these links. I will share this PPT with all of you. In statistics, Professor Rosling died recently. He is no more.
कर रहा है.
Hence, Rosling has, is known as one of the medical, scientists in medical profession, who was very comfortable with statistics, and he will appreciate the data and statistics and how to draw conclusions from big data or from trends, how to appreciate these things. So there are a number of TED Talks, there are many books by him, and there is a link here. You can just see. Another person from physics is Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman was at Cornell University. He delivered lectures, and he published a collection of his lectures, which became very popular. Then he also had video recorded lectures. 7 of his lectures were aired by BBC on physics. And then Gates Foundation, Bill Gates himself was so impressed by his lectures that he struck a deal with BBC and Cornell University to purchase the rights to these lectures. Intellectual property rights, IPR, जिसको patenting या copyright बोलते हैं. और Bill Gates has put them in open access. They are now freely available to anyone. So anyone interested in physics particularly, or anyone who wants to see the style of his teaching, how he was teaching, that you can see. So Bill Gates purchased the rights to videos of 7 lectures that Dr. Feynman gave at Cornell University, and the character of physical law. They are placed on the website. About science, why we should catch young people and give this, knowledge of science or awareness of science, or inculcate the scientific thinking among youth. On that, Bill Gates, I'm quoting here, I do think that making science cool to people when they are young, and therefore getting more people to go into it in an in-depth way, I think that is very important right now. अभी देख रहे हैं आप, पेंडेमिक के टाइम पे कोई कुछ भी बोलता है, और साइंटिफिक जो चीज आती है उसकी तरफ लोगों का रुझान है, देखना चाहते हैं कि साइंस क्या कहती है, साइंटिस्ट क्या कह रहे हैं. तो ये टाइम है जब हम यंग लोगों को साइंटिफिक कल्चर में इनकलकेट कर सकते हैं, और ये रोल हमें मिला है. मैं आप सबको पुनः बधाई देता हूँ, आप लोगों की को शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ कि आप इस करियर में फ्लरिश करें, बहुत अच्छा करें, और आगे जो सेल्फ सेटिस्फैक्शन है वो ड्रा करें. इस ओरिएंटेशन प्रोग्राम में डिफरेंट टीचर्स, हमारे डिफरेंट सीनियर ऑफिसर्स आपसे इंटरेक्ट करेंगे, और अभी कुछ टाइम डॉक्टर वीर सिंह देंगे, तो आई कैन टेक सम क्वेश्चंस आल्सो फॉर डिस्कशन. So thank you very much.